That's what makes Chapter 9 really so difficult.
Sacrifice our lives, we may not come home one day. So to look at us as a spreadsheet is, to me, un-American.
And that's part of the complication here is, of course, the issue of whether the state pensions should be absolutely guaranteed, as the state constitution suggests, and as these employees' unions say, or if, given the massive amount of underfunding in the billions of dollars, something has to give. And that's all ultimately, Brian, going to be decided in, it appears, federal court. Back to you.
Yeah, and Scott, I know, listen, you've probably had time now to dig in through some of those numbers yourself. I mean, you know that they are ugly, they are big, and looking for an answer is going to be very difficult.
That it is, and you know they are big numbers. But one of the issues here, and one of the points of contention, is just how underfunded the city pensions are, and how that plays into the $18 billion in unfunded obligations that the city has. When it comes to the pensions, we're only talking about, roughly $3 billion in underfunding. At least that's what the unions say, and that's what some of the court filings say. And so the pensions may not be the big problem. There are broader issues in this city, Brian, as you well know, that they now have to work out.
Exactly. We got to go, Scott, but not enough people, too much land. That's probably the biggest problem that we saw. Scott Cohn, great reporting as always, buddy. We'll see you soon. Your next guest penned this column in the Chicago Tribune. Detroit sounds warning for Chicago. It lays out what lessons Chicago may need to learn. Let's ask Phil Rosenthal of Chicago Tribune whether he thinks Chicago might be next. I love the article in the column, Phil. That's why I wanted you on today. And you made the case of why Chicago is not Detroit yet, but you certainly sounded the warning alarm. How come?
Well, I mean, I think, if you look at it, it goes back to what Hemingway used to say about bankruptcy. How did it happen? Well, gradually and then all at once. And I think, the one of the things that you can take from what happened in Detroit was it isn't as though no one saw this coming. I talked to people over the weekend that, they've been functionally, on a balance sheet at a loss for years now. And so at some point, unless things pick up tremendously and in a way that no one has any right to believe will happen, you have a bankruptcy situation. I think if you look at what's happening in Chicago, and it's not unique to Chicago, you're going to see similar columns about this written in a lot of cities. I think there was one in the New York Times this weekend by Bill Keller. You look at some of the unfunded, underfunded pensions, not just in the city with, say, the schools, but the state, which is phenomenally has underfunded its public pensions. And you look at some of the other things that are, the mounting legacy costs and the liabilities, and you say, well, how is this going to get paid off if you don't act now?
Well,
it's only going to get worse.
I'll jump in on it. There's a couple ways, right? And I love your first line, by the way. You can't outrun math in reference to horsepower in Detroit. Everybody should read your article. But, when you go into the numbers, everybody's looking for an enemy because the numbers are so big and complex. You have to almost mentally reduce it to like a movie. Protagonist, good guy, bad guy, right? So people are trying to find the problem. The problem is everywhere.
Yeah, and you've got to pick what you can solve. I mean, Pittsburgh is a pretty good example in the sense that, the mayor came in, Luke Ravensclaw, and he went in and he cut, 25% of spending. And, I'm not saying that's the solution for everyone, but you do need a certain amount of discipline in how you look at these numbers.
If you go through big cities, the last numbers that I've got from the Pew Charitable Trust, Chicago's pension was 52% funded, right? 50 cents on the dollar funded, the lowest of any major city in the United States. We're not picking on the pensions, Phil, but the money has got to come from somewhere. The state also has the highest debt to GDP of any state in the United States, so the state can't even bail Chicago. My wife's from Chicago. I love the city, but you guys are in a heap of trouble.
It's true. And, I say it's not Detroit because there are certain fundamentals that are here that aren't in other places, places like Detroit. It is a more diverse economy. It is, it has gotten through the last couple recessions a little better. But yeah, if you don't start dealing with this stuff, you know, it doesn't get easier to fund one of these things as time goes on. It gets a lot harder. And it's going to get exponentially harder, both in the city and the state, if they don't address it. And that's the lesson of Detroit, I think.
You know, and let's hope that the politicians step up, because they love to kick that can into the next guy's problem, right? Phil, great article.
Well,
we'll get you back. We got to go. We'll get you back on again soon, though. Great stuff.
Sure.
I encourage everybody to read it. Thank you, Phil.